What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It is Denise Salcedo, and today we are doing WWE Crown Jewel 2021 predictions. However, before we get into the show, before we talk about the storylines, who we think is going to win, and all of that good stuff, I want to introduce to you my two guests for today. Normally, I have one guest, but I was like, I got to level things up this time, and I got two very special guests with me here today. First and foremost, the man to my left, to my right, I don't even know anymore because we're on camera. We have Will Washington of Grab City Podcast, airing on Fightful TV. What's up, Will?
What's up, Denise? That's right. I am of Grab City. We're only 3 weeks in. Not to say I'm new at this. I've been podcasting for 16 years. But Grab City is kind of a new thing that I've been doing for the last 3 weeks. It airs every Saturday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, over at youtube.tv or youtube.com/Fightful. And yeah, it's a fun podcast I've been doing for some time, given the black perspective on pro wrestling. I won't say the black perspective because we're not a monolith, but a black perspective on pro wrestling. And it's a lot of fun, and you should check us out if you haven't. Again, Fightful, the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Fightful.
I like when you say that because every time people tell me, oh, give the female's perspective. I'm like, I don't got no female perspective. I got a perspective. You're trying to put me in a box, bro.
And that's it, too, is that we get that a lot where they're like, wow, it's great to hear the black perspective. And we're like, it's not the black perspective. Because, like, we're three black guys who talk about pro wrestling. But if you go and listen to any other black wrestling podcast, guarantee it's going to be a different perspective. Exactly. But we're happy to offer ours.
You're like, we're not all in sync. We don't all think the same, man.
That's the three of us on the show don't even think the same. So, like, that's how that goes.
I love that. Thank you so much, Will. And also our other special guest. Let's go ahead and introduce to you my good friend from Wrestle Talk, Tempest, who I can finally learn how to say your name.
Yeah, it's crazy. I corrected you and you kept doing it. And I just said, you know what? I'm just going to let her be. I'm just going to let her call me Tempest and I'll just live with it. It's fine. Doesn't matter. I'm here to give the masked perspective, the only one that matters. The masked perspective on this Saudi Arabia pay-per-view that we're all very much looking forward to. But yes, I, of course, am your Quizzlemania champion, Tempest WT. Follow me on Twitter, and you can subscribe to me on YouTube if you so choose. I make a lot of wrestling video essays and things of that nature, and have a good time doing that. And of course, every week over on Wrestle Talk Podcast, reviewing this week reviewing Raw and SmackDown and NXT because everyone decided to take time off at the same time. So who gets to watch every single show this week? This guy, giving the masked perspective.
Congratulations on that. Should we call this? I'm like, we should do what Mustafa Ali is doing and call this the 1021 show.
Honestly, honest to God, I watched way too much wrestling this week, but it means I get to be here talking about it that much more, so I'm happy about it.
Well, let's do it because I'm very excited. For those of you who are in the stream that are watching live, I want to thank you guys so much for taking part. Please don't be shy. Be active in the chat as we move through our predictions, as we go through everything. I will be reading your thoughts, your comments, etc. If you guys want to send any super chats, it's not mandatory, but if you want to, you can. So we'll definitely do that as well. But before we get to our Crown Jewel predictions, we do have a quick message from our sponsors. All right. Do you wish you had the power to book your own shows? Do you have what it takes to please your fan base? It's not as easy as some people think, but Sicko Games presents the Wrestling GM app. The Wrestling GM app is a simulator game where wrestling fans can now take over and become general managers. That's right. You can show Vince McMahon, Bruce Pritchard, Tony Khan, whoever your gripes are with, you can let them know how it's really done. The game features 20 wrestling organizations from different parts of the world. As a GM, your job is to book 90-minute shows that will please your fan base. The Wrestling GM app is available on iOS and Android. To download the game, click the link in the description box below. Now, back to our video. So for those of you guys who haven't downloaded the Wrestling GM app, it's really fun. They do sponsor this YouTube channel, so it's very exciting to have them on board. But I do have a video of myself playing the actual game, and it's a really good time for those of you guys who want to take the power of booking in your hands. And you could go ahead and download the app in the description box below. Click on the links and you'll get all of that information there. But now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to get into this Crown Jewel card. So here we go. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to kick things off. Kind of an exciting match, I think. I think it's going to be a very good match. The King of the Ring finals. We have none other than Finn Balor versus Xavier Woods, with the winner becoming King of the Ring. So, Tempest, we'll go ahead and kick it off with you. In terms of, I first want to get started with your thoughts on the King of the Ring tournament itself and who you think is going to be walking out King of the Ring.
Well, as far as the King of the Ring tournament itself, I think it's a perfect example of how WWE can put on a very good product just by putting good matches in the ring and giving them time. I absolutely fell in love with Finn Balor's match with Cesaro from SmackDown a couple weeks ago. It was just so fun. It was such wrestling, and that's what I tune into these shows to see. So I think the King of the Ring tournament throughout has been really, really good, and it's come down to the two guys that I would have put in the finals to begin with. And that being said, who I want to win and who I think are going to win are different in this case. I want to see Xavier Woods win, because I think that'll be like the really nice, heartwarming moment, given how much he's talked about wanting to be King of the Ring on social media, on his YouTube channel, just in general. I think that would be the nice moment, but I think they'll probably go the Demon King route instead, although I'm not that disappointed with it. It would have been my second choice.
I'm actually surprised that you would have had these two guys in the finals, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the rest of the people in it. I will say that is if I'm booking it. If I had to predict at the beginning, I was like, "Oh, Jinder Mahal's winning the whole thing." 100%, 100% thought that Jinder Mahal was going to win this tournament, and that made me care about their match on Raw that much more, because I was like, "Come on, Xavier, I can't watch." But thankfully, it played out the way that I wanted it to. I love Finn Balor. He's one of my favorite guys. I love Woods. I want to see him succeed. So putting them together, I'm sure they'll have a really, really great match.
I actually think that Finn Balor has legitimately been having some of the best matches of the tournament. But Will, what have you been thinking of in regards to the King of the Ring tournament itself? And who do you want to see win?
Okay, so I'll say that for me, the King of the Ring tournament is probably the story in WWE, and I know this is weird because there's the Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar stuff going on. Probably the story I'm most invested in, simply because Xavier Woods has been so invested in it. He's been pushing this so hard for the last 6 months. He's been pushing for the existence of the tournament, let alone his participation in it and eventual eventual victory. And so for me, I've been really into the tournament. I think I'm going to disagree with Tempest that I think had I looked at it from the beginning, I probably would have picked Sami Zayn to go that far, just because of who he's been these last few weeks on SmackDown and everything going on with Ray. And it just felt like something bigger was in the works for him, as far as at least making it far enough to be cut down. But Finn Balor is a great choice. My heart is behind Xavier Woods winning it. There's really nobody else that should have been here in this tournament. I've been a little bit disappointed in some of the outcomes, simply because WWE has the ability to put on great matches, but they also have, they're a moment's company. They have the ability to make the moment. And I feel like Xavier versus Kofi was such a layup. Like, nobody was asking to see Xavier beat Jinder Mahal. Nobody was asking to see Jinder Mahal at this point. One might even say nobody's been asking to see Jinder Mahal. But
I hope you don't get the gender the people that the gender stands. I've got.
Oh, I've taken on all the stands in the last month. I've taken on the Roman stands. I've taken on Sasha stands, and I will take on the few gender stands there are. I know, right?
Will, you're brave, man. I would not mess with the Sasha stand.
I know, and it's a brave one, because I love Sasha. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. But as far as gender is concerned, I wouldn't have put him this far. I felt like, especially when the the story of Xavier now being the only New Day member who hasn't won, the big one who hasn't been WWE champion. To me, I felt like the story of him beating one of the members of the New Day who has been there is the bigger story and would have been the better story. And I feel like they missed out on that on Raw for no reason at all. And so to me, I still feel like Xavier is the story. He is the guy. He's the guy we all want to see get there. My prediction, with all of that said, is Finn Balor, but because I'm just used to disappointment. But my heart is Xavier, and I will be rooting for Xavier, and that is exactly what I want to see happen.
Well, I gotta say, man, I feel like we're all on the same boat here because even though I'm also rooting for Xavier and I feel like he wants it so bad, it all would be such a sweet moment. And let's be real, we all need those moments in our life. It's WWE, and we already know it's gonna happen. Finn Balor is going to turn heel. He's going to win the King of the Ring. Although I do think Finn Balor going on to, to go into a storyline with Big E would be phenomenal. I think that would be very exciting. But I do have a feeling we are going to see Finn Balor win this. And that's nothing against Finn Balor. It's just that, come on, when you've been seeing Xavier Woods root, what am I saying? Root so hard for it. Like, come on, like you want to have him, have his moment. So I feel the exact same way. I'm also a little bit disappointed that in this King of the Ring tournament, we didn't get Kofi Kingston versus Xavier Woods. I think they could have done it, and they could have, kind of made the tournament mean that much more if they had essentially told the story between two friends that are going to go ahead and put that aside to try to make it to the finals of the King of the Ring. I thought that would have been pretty exciting. But we got a couple of comments, and we're going to go ahead and move on to our next match. This one is from Steve Abibi, who says, if they aren't going to crown Woods the winner, at least they did the same thing and have Balor go over. Less backlash if Finn wins. Anyone else would cause a potential fan riot. Yes and no. I still think people would be absolutely pissed off if Finn Balor won. How do you guys feel about this?
I get what he's saying. I think if it ended up being Xavier and Jinder like in the final together and they made it that Jinder Mahal won it, I think there would be a lot more fan backlash than if Finn wins. That being said, I think there will be. I think they've got it. I think it will be less backlash if Finn wins, as opposed to none.
I don't think there'll be any backlash anyway. Like, I think there's so little investment in this show anyway. Like, it's one of those things where, like, everybody, like, it's a great card, so people are looking at it like, hey, this will be great. But, like, ultimately, I think anything that happens on this show will basically be met with a shrug. I think it is funny, though, that we are here talking about Finn, and this is where we are when there has been zero follow-up on the ending to Extreme Rules. Zero. There has been absolutely not one mention. It was like, did Paul Heyman do it? Did he hire the ring crew to do it? Who knows? No, it's literally just been act of God, and Finn Balor has moved on. Doesn't even care whatsoever that happened. We're just done.
Don't you think there should have been some sort of investigation? I mean, come on. Sami Zayn had a whole documentary for a conspiracy theory. And we do have a comment from Joseph Boza who says, I can see this being a consolation prize for Finn, make Roman look so good. Sami would have won it in the finals if it weren't for Crown Jewel 3. If it weren't at Crown Jewel 3, excuse me. So do you think this, I think Joseph does kind of have a point here where it's like you mentioned the whole ropes thing and him looking like a fool and essentially ruining the character of the demon. Do you think that this is WWE's way of saying, you know what? Let's give him the King of the Ring after we made him look a fool?
I do think maybe. I disagree with the statement that he made Roman look good because, like, nobody looked good in that ending. But
that is true.
As far as Finn himself is concerned, yeah, I could see this being like a consolation prize of like, hey, we kind of like ruined the mystique of the demon because we did the whole like heart pounding thing and had him get up and play his music all throughout. But like, oopsie daisy, he just falls off the top rope because it snapped and all of that's done. I will say that ending was like the funniest thing in the world to me. And it's only funnier now that it's like gone completely unmentioned since then. That was literally how you sent home a pay-per-view and you've done zero follow-up to it. And he's just King of the Ring, I guess.
Oh, it's absolutely heartbreaking. But let's go ahead and move on because I think you can. This is surprising, and I can't wait to get your thoughts on this one. But I think you guys all know where I'm going at here. And this is the Queen's Crown tournament, a final. Dewdrop versus Zelina Vega. One of these two women will be crowned the new Queen of the Ring, Queen's Crown, whatever you want to call it. Will, we'll start with you. What do you think of the Queen of the Ring tournament? And who do you think is going to walk out being crowned here at Crown Jewel?
Boo. So a couple of things here. One, I can't believe this tournament was a thing. I can't believe that there's been, there was the talk of everybody wanting to do a King of the Ring tournament or King of the Ring style tournament for women. And it's like everything was missed at every stage. You start with the fact that you couldn't even name it Queen of the Ring, right? Because that was the thing that people knew and associated with, and it was a layup, and they were like, nope, you don't even get the name. So we start there. It's like, and you have it next to the King of the Ring tournament. It's not like it's held at a different time. It's not like it's an entirely separate thing. You literally have the two thrones next to each other. We're like, we have King of the Ring and Queen's Crown. So you missed with the name, and then it's like, the idea behind matches, I mentioned this on Grapsity this past week, but the idea behind tournaments should be that it's an easy way to essentially get the most matches out of the least amount of people. And in doing so, you can actually put on some really great matches in a short amount of time. And that should be really the idea behind a tournament. But when I say short amount of time, I don't mean 2-minute matches. And that's exactly what they did here. So the tournament matches have basically all been a disaster in the sense of you didn't give anybody any time to do anything with these matches. And it's not like the time didn't exist because it definitely did. And on top of that, the results have mostly been head scratchers, right? It's like you had Liv Morgan, who got that huge reaction at Extreme Rules, and it seemed like this, things were happening with her, and then all of a sudden she loses the same match she had at Extreme Rules, right? And then you also had Toni Storm, who it seemed like, okay, we haven't seen her in a while. Maybe she's being kept at bay because there's plans for her. Of course, I don't know why we continually think that when it never is proven right. But and then she shows up and loses. And then just recently, you had everybody had just been praising. Yeah, why?
Tony, Shayna?
Shayna. Everybody's been praising Shayna, right? And everything she's been doing lately. And I can't believe I drew a blank on Shayna Baszler's name, by the way.
But come at you after this.
but everybody been praising everything Shayna's been doing as of late because she's been kind of on the best run of her main roster career, which has only been like a year and a half. But even still, she's been doing some of the things people have been wanting her to do, to the point of where people I had seen the sentiment on Twitter that, hey, if these are going to be short matches, at least you're having Shayna squash people and look good and look strong doing so, and she'll make it to the final, and it'll be the Shayna Baszler victory, and maybe it'll happen in short fashion, but at least it's going to be somebody dominant who you could see getting there, and she didn't even do that. And so instead,
She's literally killing girls left and right too on that roster.
I know, and she just killed everybody on the Raw roster the entire time she's been on Raw. You literally had her win the Elimination Chamber a year and a half ago by beating every single person in it. This is a person. This was such, again, a layup, and it's like, no, it's there. We're gonna go Dewdrop, and it's nothing against Dewdrop. She's just not there. And then Zelina Vega, who again hadn't won a single match prior to the Queen's Crown tournament. So why would she be here in the finals? I think she's going to win it. I think this is her thing to win. I think she'll be Queen Zelina, and that'll be what we see for the next probably 2 years of her character. But you didn't do, and this is a common theme with WWE, you didn't do any of the work to actually get her there. You didn't do any of the work to prepare her for this. You just dropped her in here. And then you also drop in here, and sorry, I can't.
Neither of these two women are more over than they were at the start of this tournament. Now, Tempest, I know you've been dying to get your thoughts in. So, Tempest, I need to hear this. What did you think of the Queen of the Ring tournament? What did you think of what do you think of the finals with Doudrop and Zelina? And do you agree with Will that Zelina will essentially be walking out getting crowned here?
I do agree. I agree with everything that Will said. You know, it was like I just said, that the King of the Ring tournament was an example of how WWE can put on a good product when they just put on long matches and have good wrestlers wrestle each other. This was the complete polar opposite. They did everything wrong with this tournament. Everything wrong. I don't think they could have booked it worse unless they had Shayna Baszler like lose in the first round instead of the second round. And think of how small of a pat on the back that is. Congratulations, you had her win 1 2-minute match instead of all of them. But yes, I think Zelina Vega is going to win. That does not enthuse me whatsoever. And this whole tournament, like, you're the one who's been putting up the times of all these matches. I don't need to tell you that. I
regret it.
Oh, God. Like, I don't need to tell you how little time they've given any of this. I think if they had done this at another time, it would have still been bad, but putting this right next to the King of the Ring tournament when you've got matches like Finn Balor and Cesaro, contrasting the 2-minute matches of Toni Storm and Zelina Vega and Liv Morgan and Carmella, I do not understand the thought process here whatsoever. They had such a chance to have a great first tournament, and they completely whiffed. They're wearing the golden sombrero, 4 strikeouts in a game. This was just bad.
It's very unfortunate, and you do mention those times, and that's been a major conversation during this Queen's Crown tournament, and it's been very unfortunate, the fact that you go out there, and the longest match that we had, which was about barely 3 minutes, barely hitting that 3-minute mark, was Natalya and Doudrop, and obviously, you know, you have Natalya in there, so that's not a surprise, but it's one of those situations where it's like, how do you want the tournament to mean anything if you're not giving it a respectable amount of time? And I had a lot of people out here basically saying, well, what do we really want to see, you know, Doudrop in this, you know, long match or anything like that? And it's not even about that, but it's one of those things where how do you want the women's division to actually mean something if you're not telling us it means something? You're telling us it doesn't mean something by doing these short matches. And a lot of people were legitimately pissed at that because people didn't want that information out there. People didn't want everyone to know that essentially the Queen's Crown tournament kind of was, you know, being treated like nothing, but it doesn't even matter. If I would have posted the times or not, it was very obvious. Anybody with a brain could have seen that the matches weren't given the amount of time that they should have been giving. They weren't given the respectable, you know, just like they weren't given any respect here. And in terms of, you know, Will talked about, you know, you talked about what the tournament should do. And I agree. The tournament should build people up. Even the people that do not win this tournament should have gotten more out of it. Liv Morgan, even if they weren't going to go all the way with her, she should have gotten more out of this. Toni Storm, who is a relatively new face on the main roster, they could have actually made her mean something in terms of, like, she came out, she had these badass matches, and now, you know, people should care about her. Why? Because she went out there and she did a tremendous job. And so it's one of those things where instead of it feeling like there was a strategy going into this, it kind of feels like it was all done like willy-nilly, where it was like, okay, well, flip the coin, this is who wins and this is who's going to make it to the next match, versus there is a clear strategy on both ends of the bracket. Now, in terms of Doudrop and Zelina, I do think that there's a good chance that Zelina will win this. And like you said, they're going to make this her character for the next year or so, because let's be real, they haven't given her anything else to work with. Or I do think that I think there is more of a possibility of us seeing Doudrop win, because it's kind of the same thing. What else are they going to do with her? This whole Eva Marie thing was not necessarily the greatest thing ever. And I do have a feeling that they're going to, knowing how they've sort of booked these types of characters, I won't be surprised if they go out there and have her essentially make a fool out of herself as, you know, the Queen's Crown winner. So it is one of those things where that's what I'm expecting is going to happen. And I know, Will, you're laughing because you see it too.
I know. I'm like, it was one of those things I like pictured and like, yeah, that actually sounds about right. You know, the worst thing too is that I feel like this tournament followed the worst instincts of the King of the Ring and not necessarily the best. When you think about, like, some of the King of the Rings that have been like really successful, like I think like right off the top of my head, I think about Brock Lesnar's run, right? Where like Brock Lesnar was dominant at the moment he debuted on Raw, and so the King of the Ring was basically a way for him to just continue this run of dominance, and then it cemented his status right below the WWE Championship, and then he went for the title. Like that was what the King of the Ring did for him. It's same with like King Booker, it put him on track to becoming World Heavyweight Champion. But then on the other hand, you look at some of the worst King of the Ring tournaments that they had done where it was just like, hey, we just do this thing together and, nothing ever matters. Like Wade Barrett, right? Wade Barrett wins, goes on to do absolutely nothing. It's basically a gag. And he eventually, within months, loses it to R-Truth. And I don't know. I felt like, because on the other end, Corbin was somewhere in between, right? Where like Corbin wasn't necessarily everybody's top choice to become King of the Ring, but at the same time, you put him through these crazy matches that ended up being the best matches of Corbin's career, to the point of where he came out of it like, okay, I could see something happening with Corbin here. It didn't end up being much of anything, but at least like the groundwork was laid here. Other than maybe giving Zelina a character coming out of this, I don't necessarily see her or anybody coming out of this, especially looking at it being Doudrop and Zelina. I don't see either of them looking like better performers or better, competitors coming out of this. Neither one seems like so, because I haven't walked out of a match going, dang, I am now impressed. I've now seen more out of this performer than I ever thought I would have seen, the way that the King of the Ring has done for us in the past.
Exactly. And we do got a comment from Jackson Dale who says, but guys, the booking may be bad, the matches may not be long, and the women don't get the time or respect, but remember what a moment it's gonna be. I appreciate the sarcasm, Jackson Dale. We are gonna go ahead and move on to our next match. Let's go ahead and jump into this next one. This is Mansoor versus Mustafa Ali. My favorite Mansoor. Tempest, what are your thoughts going into this match, and who do you think is going to walk out winning this match?
Well, my thoughts are kind of split on this match, honestly, because I can appreciate that they've done more work to give Mansoor a match heading into Saudi Arabia than in years past, where in years past it would just be, hey, Mansoor's having a one-on-one match against a good worker. He's going to get a win because he's in his hometown, right? That's full stop. Doesn't get any build-up towards it. Doesn't get any follow-up. That's what it is. Now there's a storyline going into it. He's had this failed partnership with Mustafa Ali. So I like that they've done that. That being said, I would have preferred if they kept them together as a tag team, because I thought that they were much more interesting as a tag team, and they were able to fill out a tag team division that is just as weak as can be most of the time in WWE, and they were a team that I thought had a lot of potential. So I'm not happy that they got broken up, but I can appreciate that they've done more to give Mansoor something to do leading into this match. That being said, this is Mansoor with a slam dunk win.
Definitely agree. Will, do you want to add to this?
I'm just going to parrot what was just said, because, this, to me, felt like gimping the tag team division for no reason. Which is already not much of anything, and you just took one more team out of it, unless they just come away. I feel like this is one of those stories, too, where it only just felt like they were just starting to gel maybe in the last couple of months, and it's like somebody remembered, oh, yeah, don't we usually have, like, Mansoor have these singles matches at Crown Jewel? Maybe he should win. Maybe he should have one, and Mustafa Ali is a good one to have. Obviously, Mansoor's winning. I think it'll deliver. I think that it may be a surprise of the night. Not that, obviously he hasn't delivered before, but I think that in the sense of being in the setting and knowing kind of what's at stake, as long as they're given time, I think this match could end up being something special.
I agree. And if Mansoor doesn't win, we'll riot. Moving on to this next match here. Next up, we got the WWE Raw Tag Team titles on the line. RK Bro versus AJ Styles and Omos. To be honest, I'll start off with you, Will, because I want to know, do you even honestly care about the story that is being told with this match?
God, I just want AJ Styles from like 2018 back. No, I don't. I just want a good AJ singles run that I can root for, and that's it. I don't care about any parts of this any longer. Uh, we just saw this. I thought we were done here. Obviously, we're not. I guess RK Bro's probably gonna take it.
I feel so bad, but it's true. I'm sorry. Like, I'm a fan of everybody in this match. Okay. I know it's going to be a good match. I know it's going to be entertaining, but I just don't care. You mentioned that we already saw this. I also thought we moved on from this. I was ready to go off and, go see what else is out there. But as we know, there isn't very much to the tag team division. So I'm not surprised we're circling back here once again. And I do like that, I do like how this is benefiting Omos, his partnership with AJ Styles. I get that. I fully do. But I agree with Will. I want to see AJ Styles go back and do his own thing because at the end of the day, it's AJ Styles, and I don't want to see his time wasted in this tag team match. And I know it's not time wasted because he's still essentially getting Omos over, who, somebody WWE clearly thinks highly of. But Tempest, do you care? And if so, who do you think is going to win?
Well, I don't particularly care, no, I must say. I will parrot Will's point that I just want to see babyface, maybe not even babyface, but single star AJ Styles again very badly. I just... like Denise, you said that this isn't necessarily wasted time because, they're still getting Omos over. I still kind of see it as a bit of wasted time, because I don't see what the positive outcome of all this is. He's really big. That's it. He's never going to be a super worker. And even still, what would his ceiling be as a worker? Like where Braun Strowman got to? Right? I would probably say he's probably as good a really big guy as WWE has had in recent years. And they still never pushed him that hard, and then they let him go. So even if they've got the massive, massive wrestlers, I don't see a ceiling being that high for them. And so just having AJ Styles kind of spending a year babysitting this giant so that he can wrestle somewhat decent matches, I think is kind of a waste of time. We heard about how AJ Styles wanted a big singles match against Triple H at WrestleMania and was kind of disappointed that he had to have a tag team match. It's like, yeah, look at all the people that he could be wrestling right now if it was just single star AJ Styles. I'd prefer all of those matches over this one. As for the match itself, WWE doesn't do enough to introduce new layers to a storyline between the first and second matches in order to get me more invested to see it the second time. It's just the same match a second time. It was fine at SummerSlam, but I've seen it already. So I'm not terribly excited to see it again. That being said, RK Bro is going to retain.
I think we're all in agreement here. Now, before we move on to the next match, I do want to give everybody a friendly reminder. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. I do post out, I post like so much content on this channel, interviews. I mean, everything that I can think of goes up on this channel. So if you guys haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Plus, I'm almost at that 50K mark and it's killing me. I'm almost there. Please make sure to do so. Also, please make sure to give some love to our guests on social media. Tempest, who you guys have been seeing here today, is at Tempest WT. Please make sure to give them some love. You can also find the links to follow both of these guys in the comments in the description box below. And then also make sure to give Will some love. He is at William RBR. Please make sure to give both of our guests some love and appreciation. Now let's go ahead and jump into the next match. So let's get into this. Tempest, will kick things off with you. And the match that we're going into now is the Hell in a Cell match between Edge versus Seth Rollins. I want to start off by asking you, do you think this story is still hot, or do you think that we have run its course? And are you looking forward to seeing this match, given that they added the element of the Hell in a Cell?
Oh, man, this is the one match that really makes me sad that this show is in Saudi Arabia. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they can pull out like a 4.5-star match and just go balls to the wall, go crazy, and have a great match. That being said, I've never really seen people do that in Saudi Arabia. So if this is the first time, awesome. I will be happy. If this whole card was at like Survivor Series instead, I would say this would be like the best looking WWE card of the year. You know, it's that stacked. And this is the match where they said it. I was like, woo, I want to see Edge and Seth Rollins in Hell in a Cell. As far as the storyline itself, I think they've done a pretty good job of kind of pacing this storyline out. They've only had 2 matches. If this was Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre, they'd be at like 4 by now. So they're only at 2 matches. If they keep going beyond this Hell in a Cell match, then I think it's overkill. But if you're going to do like a nice little 4 or 5 month storyline and have it conclude with this big match, there's no better match to do that with it than Hell in a Cell. And I trust these 2 guys to put on a great Hell in a Cell match probably more than anyone. This was one of the harder ones I had to predict, I'll be honest. But I'm going to say that my boy Edge is going to come out with the win.
Oh, I love it. You're still an Edge fan. That's great to hear. Well,
that's my guy.
There you go.
That's my guy.
What are your thoughts heading into this? Same questions. Are you still interested in the story, or do you feel like it's gone long enough? And who do you see walking out winning?
Yeah. So, I've always said that Hell in a Cell should be kind of a feud ender, right? Like it should be the ultimate. We can't contain this feud any longer. It has to culminate inside Hell in a Cell. And of course, the big beef with Hell in a Cell over the last few years is that it's been the opposite, where it's been like, hey, we're kicking off this feud with Hell in a Cell just because we happen to start this feud right around October where we hold this pay-per-view. And so what's nice is that, yeah, Edge and Seth Rollins does have a lot of story behind it, beyond just the 7 years that they've surprisingly referenced beforehand, but all the stuff that kicked off with going into Money in the Bank, with Seth Rollins costing Edge the Universal Championship, and then them having the match at SummerSlam, them having the match at Madison Square Garden, and now having the match. I feel like with everything that's gone on and Edge being put on the shelf by Seth Rollins for like 3 weeks, I feel like Hell in a Cell is kind of the right blow off for this type of feud. And so, yeah, I do think that I agree with what Tempest said. If this were another pay-per-view, if this were any other show, I'd actually be like enthusiastic. I'd be, this could main event. This is the type of match that we should be seeing for a feud that's been going as long as it's been going. And so, yeah, I definitely feel like Edge and Seth Rollins is right for Hell in a Cell, and I think 2 motivated guys could deliver. I think a big problem with delivering is that I like the SummerSlam match, I did, but the SmackDown match was so much better because, like, any wrestler will tell you that the energy of a crowd can help bring the energy of the performers to another level. And the problem, of course, with the SummerSlam setting is that you have the big outdoor setting. Edge has complained about it before, that when you're in that big open setting, the sound doesn't travel to the wrestlers as well as it does in a big indoor setting. And so being in Madison Square Garden, they had that loud reaction from the fans, and you could feel them feeding off of that and putting on the match they put on. So with all that said, we've seen these shows in Saudi Arabia. We've seen how the crowd reacts, and it's like nothing. And so I could absolutely see it would be really tough. I feel like it'll feel like a Thunderdome match in a sense, and that's my worry, but I hope they surprise me. My prediction, Edge, because I feel like this will be the match to send the crowd home happy, or not home, but to send them off happy. And we know how much the Saudi shows kind of rely on the nostalgia acts. He's kind of the only one here, so Edge.
I agree with you guys both, and I'm glad that you brought up the factor of the crowd, because I was talking about this yesterday on We're Live Power. I was like, unfortunately, like, we have this great card, like Tempest mentioned, but this is not your, this is not your typical Raw crowd. This is not your SummerSlam crowd. This is not the same crowd, so it is going to take away from the actual atmosphere. Now, I do hope, given how good the card is, this is their time to prove that they need to make these shows mean something to those that are not in Saudi Arabia. Like, they need to make this show actually mean something and try to change the perspective of it as much as they can. So if they have a good card, They can literally actually give us legitimately good matches, and maybe, just maybe, it could change a little bit of that perception that people have going into this show. Now, will they do that? I do not know. I'm hopeful to get some good wrestling because I'll be watching the show tomorrow. So I hope for some good wrestling at the end of the day. But we do have a super chat before we move on. I want to thank you so much to Misha Sumra for sending this in. Misha says, very nice comment saying, Denise is amazing, smart, and fun, and nobody can show Blampied like her. Will has some excellent points. Gonna be checking out his work later, but my heart is with LIW 444 Life. Let's go, Tempest. I love this. She gave some love to all of us. I really appreciate this. Thank you so much to Misha. Once again, if you guys are enjoying the show, please do not forget to like and subscribe and give Tempest and Will both some love. Once again, you can follow them on social media. Their links are in the description box of this video. But now let's go ahead and jump into our next match. And the next match that we're getting into is the match everyone's the most excited for. Don't lie to me. This is true. It's Goldberg versus Bobby Lashley, because there's a good chance Goldberg might kill a man. Tempest, we'll kick things off with you. How excited are you for Goldberg versus Bobby Lashley?
I'm like morbidly curious at this point. You know, the first time that Goldberg said it was like, Bobby Lashley, I'm gonna kill you. I was like, you know, sometimes you get worked up, something like that might just slip out in the moment. And it's like, oh, it's a one-time thing, whatever. It's like part of the storyline now. The last 2 weeks, Goldberg has just been planning a murder. He's like, no, I'm gonna kill you. No, I'm gonna end your life. No holds barred. I'm gonna go to Saudi Arabia and leave your body there. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ. I don't know what is the end game here? Are they gonna completely write off Bobby Lashley with a huge injury angle, like actually beat him within an inch of his life? I hope not. That'd be whack. But if this is just like a regular no holds barred match that's kind of boring in 2 stars and then it ends, we're like, well, that was underwhelming. There was no attempted murder on this show. False advertising. I don't know. I'm not particularly looking forward to it, but I'm just morbidly curious. I've probably got Goldberg winning because it's Saudi Arabia and it's a Goldberg show. So, you know, I've seen this movie before.
Will, are you morbidly curious?
No. No. Not even, because like I saw the SummerSlam match and like the people who like that match, I have this like weird curiosity of like,
wait, those people existed, Will? Who are
yeah, I've heard it from a lot of people. As a matter of fact, RBR host Cody Carlson is like, has talked about how that match was good, and I'm like, in what universe? But I'm curious what they see in that, because the thing that like sticks out to me from that match is like Goldberg getting hit in his leg and then looking down and realizing he got hit in his leg and is like, oh shit, I need to sell this. And I felt like that whole thing was a disaster. And the weird thing was, in that match, that was the moment that I truly felt Bobby was gonna die, because like the times he was like, there was when he got I forget, he was like getting tossed off the top rope, and I realized it's not the term I should use for a lot of the UK viewers, but those who were when he was getting thrown off the top rope and like almost lands on his head, like I thought like, oh my God, Bobby's gonna die here. And so it is reasonable that in a match with Goldberg, Bobby should be fearing for his life. Now, with that said, with all of the buildup, it will be a severe disappointment if the bell doesn't ring and Goldberg doesn't just like pull out a gun and just like point it at Bobby Lashley, because like that's what we've obviously been building to, and no holds barred, so everything's legal, right? So I feel like anything less than that, total disappointment. It's weird because you mentioned that it's Saudi and it's Goldberg, so obviously Goldberg, but I think Goldberg is 1-1 in Saudi Arabia, because we have The Undertaker, we have The Fiend. So really, it could go either way. My gut says Bobby, but my brain says Goldberg. So gotta go with the brain and say Goldberg wins.
All right. So first of all, I just got to say that I'm a Goldberg fan and I get so much crap for that. I get so much crap. And even I didn't like that SummerSlam match. I was sitting there thinking, oh my God, please, God, no. What are they doing here? Please just end it now. What's happening? You guys are making it harder for me. So that's how I feel about that. In terms of this actual match, dude, I've been loving everything that Bobby Lashley has been doing post his championship run. I feel that he's been killing it as much as he possibly can. I almost feel like I'm a bigger fan of Bobby Lashley post his WWE championship run, believe it or not. And I find this whole storyline utterly hilarious. I love it. Goldberg just coming out here and saying he's going to kill a man and nobody giving a damn, nobody doing anything, nobody investigating, nobody having a conversation with him, trying to change his mind. That's not happening. In terms of who's actually going to win this match, I do have a feeling that it's going to be Bobby Lashley. Because I just don't think that they should necessarily undo all the work that they did with Bobby Lashley in terms of building him as somebody who is so dominant on the roster. However, I actually just got I literally just got this emailed to me. This is a quote from Odds Checker. I don't really know much about this website, but apparently they do the betting odds. And this just literally popped into my inbox 10 minutes ago. And in regards to this match, 83.3% of the people believe that Goldberg is going to win, and 23.1% think that Lashley is going to win. So I am definitely in the minority here when it comes to who we think is actually going to win. So before we move on to the next match, I do have a super chat from the real Giannis. Thank you so much to the real Giannis, who sends in saying, hope we get some clean finishes. Well, obviously not going to happen in the main event, but apart from that, and honestly, the killing thing is cringy AF. I think it's hilarious. It's cringy, but it's hilarious. Any thoughts that you guys want to add to what the real Giannis just said?
I think it about covers it, honestly. I mean, why are we having a murder angle in pro wrestling? Oh, every time it comes up, I'm once again in disbelief about it.
It's crazy. Also, I was looking at these odds, and when we were talking about Dewdrop and Zelina Vega, and I know both of you said Zelina Vega. So Dewdrop is actually the favorite here to win. She's at 63.6%, and Zelina's at 44.4%. And then with Xavier Woods and Finn Balor, it's kind of in between. 52% Finn Balor, 55% Xavier Woods. So there are a lot of people who think that this may be a disappointment, essentially. All right. All right, we're gonna go ahead and move on to our next match here. Let's see what we got here. Okay, this one's gonna be I think this is the match I'm most looking forward to, but here we go. This match is for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks. Who the hell is going to walk out SmackDown Women's Champion? We'll get started with you. What are your thoughts in terms of this match? Do you think we're going to see a new SmackDown Women's Champion? And thirdly, do you think at some point that they still might add Charlotte, or has the boats sailed?
I couldn't call this whatsoever. There's so many things that there's so many factors here that throw a massive wrench into this match. The main one being that 2 of the 3 people in this match for the SmackDown Women's title are on Raw. One of them being the SmackDown Women's Champion. So, I don't know what you do there. Do you have Sasha, the one person who's on SmackDown, walk away with the belt? So therefore, you at least have her walk into her run on SmackDown. Well, I mean, she's been on SmackDown this whole time, but essentially, you have her kind of banish these two and be the person on SmackDown. But then, what does that mean for Charlotte, who is still a champion, going into her run on SmackDown? None of this makes any sense. And so it's very difficult. Like, my gut and my brain are kind of in sync on this one that says, dude, Becky Lynch wins and they just do the belt swap again, like they did with the tag champs last year. I think that this match has a chance to deliver. I'm hoping that it's hoping. Who am I kidding? I was gonna say it's gonna be one of those like the giant T-shirt matches, right? Because we're in Saudi Arabia, and so I have a hunch that it's not necessarily going to be one of those matches that they're gonna do a lot in, to where there's going to be a lot of memorable moments and callbacks and things you can do. So it's a toss-up, but I say Becky Lynch wins just to make the swap easier.
Wow. So I got to tell you, before we get Tempest's answer, Becky Lynch is actually the favorite here to win in these odds things that I just got sent. Second is Sasha Banks, and third is Bianca Belair. So Tempest, I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Do you agree? Do you think it's going to be Becky Lynch, or do you think it's going to be the obvious answer in Sasha Banks?
I agree with Will. I think it's going to be Becky Lynch, and that's me speaking with my brain and not my heart. Because if I was booking this whole week of WWE, there are so many combinations of things that you could have done, with the Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair match on Raw for the Raw Women's title, and then leading into this triple threat match. Honestly, there are so many things that you could have done, and I can see the train wreck. And if I've watched WWE, I know they're about to do the belt swap again, and that's by far the worst possible option to me. And I'm praying that it doesn't happen. I don't want that to be the case by any means, just because I think it's ridiculous. But if I was the person booking all this, I honestly, my number one thing, I would have booked Bianca Belair to beat Charlotte for the Raw Women's title on Monday, and then beat Becky Lynch for the SmackDown title on Crown Jewel and win both belts. Hold both belts for a little while. It doesn't have to be forever, but kind of give that back to her after that loss at SummerSlam. Because we haven't gotten that big Bianca Belair, hey, we kind of screwed you over, here's a nice thing moment yet. And if they did that, I almost would be ready to forgive the SummerSlam moment. If they gave her both belts, it would be close. I wouldn't have booked that in the first place, but that would be a nice thing. Giving her both women's championships would be a solid step in the right direction. I don't think that's going to happen. That's what I would have done. I think we're getting a belt swap.
Tempest, I have to disagree with you. I don't think giving Bianca the two belts is the necessary call. I do think she should have won the Raw Women's Championship on Monday. That would have been the right call there. But I don't think they should have given her both belts, because I do like having two champions. And I like that. I think one belt is enough sort of deal. And then secondly, I just wish they didn't freaking draft the champions. It's that simple. We wouldn't be in this mess if they just didn't draft the champions during this. I think they should make it easy. They already booked themselves into this situation. Make it easy and have Sasha Banks win. End the conversation.
Because there's a couple of things. There's the one thing is, I will disagree with you. I hate having two champions because
we're bringing up the clause. Everybody's disagreeing.
Well, because a big part of it is, WWE, especially people in WWE, love to talk about the casual fan, right? And the things that appeal to casual fans. You know what doesn't appeal to casual fans? Confusing championships. And I'll give an example really quick, because my dad spends a lot of time on Peacock because he gets it for free, and they have Frasier, right? So he'll just scroll Peacock and he'll just randomly pick Everybody Loves Raymond, random stuff to watch. And he did happen to throw on SummerSlam when it was on, because he just happened to open up Peacock, saw it was on, and was like, hey, I'm going to watch SummerSlam. And so he did, right? And so he happened to catch the Nikki Cross and Charlotte match, and so he saw Charlotte won, right? And so my dad doesn't have cable, so later on he was watching SmackDown, and he sees Becky Lynch with the SmackDown Women's title, and he's like, but wait a minute, I thought Charlotte won the title. And I was like, no, Dad, that's the Raw Women's title. And he's like, what's the difference? I literally just saw all of this happen on the show. And I thought, if you are trying to appeal to casual viewers and you do put your product in front of people, and Peacock has a really large audience. I think people underestimate how many people just use Peacock because they get it for free with their Xfinity. And to walk into something like a show that features Raw and SmackDown. And it's like, here's the world champion here, but then here's the world champion here. Here's the Raw Women's Champion. Here's the SmackDown Women's Champion. And it's like, but you're trying to appeal to casual audiences. But the casual audience, if anything, would not pick up on the idea of there being a champion of this show and a champion of this show without knowing the context of those shows. Like, that's really a thing that, like, is for us, like, hard viewers. But yeah, as far as the swap is concerned, I think the swap is one of the biggest tells that there's so little long-term planning here. Like, the idea that this is the top program of SmackDown, to me anyway, well, besides Roman and Brock, obviously, but like, we talk programs that feature stars, right? We're talking Roman and Brock on one side, and we have Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair on the other side. And the fact that you're moving that entire program over to the other brand tells me that there's been very little long-term planning in terms of the vision for SmackDown.
So I do want to add, I really want you to make your dad watch during Survivor Series. I really need your dad's thoughts on like brand supremacy stuff.
Like, it doesn't even matter to him, right? Because like, why would he care?
Podcast with your dad, and I will tune in. I will be there. I need to get his full thoughts on all of this.
Everyone has a belt. There's so many belts. Who's the champion?
That's awesome. We got a super chat from Chris Ludek, good friend here of the show. Chris Ludek says, I think for the next draft, they should draft all Raw champions to SmackDown and all SmackDown champions to Raw and do a 30-minute segment of a giant belt switch for all. That sounds like complicated. Tempest, what do you think?
This is why you don't put colors on the belts. If the friggin' belts weren't all color-coded, this wouldn't be an issue.
Look, I have an issue with this. I don't mind the belts being like brand specific. I don't have an issue with that. The issue here is the booking of these belts. There's nothing wrong with being color coded. Nothing at all. I thrive. Hold on a second.
Gonna go get the blueberry jam belt or something like that. I will say the women's titles probably don't bother me as
all
much.
right. Please. I am the queen of color coding.
So
I appreciate the color coordination in everything, okay? So this is just a personal thing, but thank you so much to Chris Ludek. Will, did you want to add to what Chris said about his idea here?
So I don't know. I mean, it's not so much about the color coding. I do think that making the belts specific to the brand and less about like an actual thing is difficult in a sense because I just feel like the belts, in a way, even though they are identified, they kind of lose their identity in a way because case in point, Bianca Belair got screwed out of her SmackDown Women's title. Like, to me, being invested in this story, I want to see Bianca Belair get that belt back. Because ultimately, that's the belt she lost. Ultimately, historically, the history reads, Bianca Belair lost the belt in a couple of seconds, and as far as we're concerned, didn't get it back. And so, like, that to me sucks. And I feel like that is an inherent problem of having the belts be brand specific. Because, like, the Universal title and the WWE title aren't brand specific. So, like, somebody chasing the Universal title, whether it's on Raw or whether they're chasing it on SmackDown, they're still chasing the Universal title. It's still that belt. They're still chasing the WWE Championship. That's the story, is it's that belt. But when you make it about the brand, you almost lose the purpose behind the belt itself. That's just me.
But it's all about brand supremacy, and you'll be hearing that a lot in the next few weeks. But here we go. We got another super chat from The Real Janice. Thank you so much for sending this in. The Real Janice says, Becky, Bianca, Charlotte, and Sasha are great, and I really am looking forward to it. And it's one thing WWE has over AEW. The top female wrestlers at WWE are incredible, but Becky looks rusty in the ring question mark. He asked if we agree. Thoughts
I disagree with everything in this statement.
All right, go ahead and give your thoughts, Will. We'll start off with you.
One, I thought just the last match Becky had was one of the best matches she's had in this run. So disagree on that front. I also think that I think obviously Becky, Bianca, Charlotte, and Sasha are the top female talents in the world. But I also think that AEW has some top tier women's talent. My favorite women's talent in the business today right now is Hikaru Shida. So like, I just disagree across the board with this statement. And I couldn't possibly, except wait, hold on. You are looking forward to it. And so therefore, I can't disagree with that.
Hey.
I need to get your breakdown on this as well.
Yeah. I pretty much agree with everything that Will said there. I think for a long time it was easy to kind of point at the women's division as being the one major thing that WWE has over AEW, and I think to some degree I can still see it a bit, just in terms of the quantity of top level performers WWE has in the women's division. When you look at, they've got all the names listed there: Becky, Bianca, Charlotte, Sasha, but then add in, Bayley's hurt, but they've still got Bayley. They've got Asuka. They've got Io Shirai. They've got Toni Storm. They've got a lot of people for sure. That being said, I don't know that I'm more invested in any of those people than I am in Britt Baker right now. And I don't know that I'd want to watch any of them wrestle more than I'd want to watch a Serena Deeb match right now. Maybe I would, depends on the match, but I don't think it's as slam dunk an argument now as it was a couple years ago.
Even just a year ago.
Yeah, even a year ago. They've got so many great women's talents in AEW now. Maybe they're not put on TV still as much as they could be, but the talent itself is definitely there.
And there's actually, like, for the first time, I think, off the top of my head, like 4 active feuds. So
yeah,
I can't agree with this statement today.
Well,
I think
I'm about to shift the tables. I'm about to disagree here with both of you guys. All right. So first and foremost, I agree with the first portion of Becky, Bianca, Charlotte and Sasha being great. Looking forward to it as well. Great. I do think the WWE women's division is stronger than the AEW women's division. And for multiple reasons is that they have a strong, dominant champion in Britt Baker, but they haven't really let anybody get near that same level that Britt Baker has. Thunder Rosa was in that match with Britt Baker, and there's been so many dynamites and rampages where she isn't even featured, and she's one of the top women that they have there. So they should be featuring her more. I do think they need to feature and give more time to their women, period. And this goes across the board for both promotions. But in terms of like after that match that I just saw recently with Becky and Sasha and Charlotte and Bianca, I have to go right now with WWE in terms of their women's division being stronger. I do think AEW has the opportunity because, like you guys mentioned, they have people like Serena Deeb, they have Hikaru Shida, they have Riho, they have the women to pull this off. They just need to give them more time and more segments than they do right now.
Oh, yeah. So just to keep in mind, that wasn't to say that I think AEW has a stronger women's division. I think that's easy. I wouldn't say that. But it's more so just I don't think it's as blanket of a statement as you could make even a year ago. Because I do agree with Tempest. And hey, we've agreed a lot on this. We should be friends. But
absolutely.
Because I do think that, honestly, there really isn't a champion right now. Maybe you can make an argument for Deonna, but I don't think there's a champion as dominant or as over as Britt Baker. There's nobody eliciting her reaction. So, like, it's easy to say that the field in WWE is bigger, but I do think that when we look at who the top talent is, it's really hard for me to say that anybody is on Britt's level right now. So it's just one of those statements that, like, I just can't feel like you can blanket make. But the Becky thing looking rusty, totally disagree. I think Becky has had some, just thinking about Extreme Rules and last week's SmackDown, Becky's great.
In terms of, I agree with you 100% in terms of Britt Baker being the top champion across the board for the women. She's super over. I've been there. I've seen the reactions that she gets. In terms of, and it's sad because I do think they could have had that with Becky Lynch coming back because they've had it before. So it's very unfortunate that they kind of just threw all of that away.
Yeah.
All right. And then lastly, Becky does not look rusty in the ring. She looks like in better shape than she ever has before.
I know. Right? Dude, those abs, like, there's no friggin' way. Absolutely not.
She had a baby. I have no excuse, man. None of us have any excuse. All right, let's go through a couple more. All right, let's go ahead and move on actually from here. But before we do, just a quick reminder to everybody, do not forget to give both of my guests here today some love. Tempest from Wrestle Talk, and please give Will some love as well, and his show Grapsity on Fightful. And then do not forget to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. I have lots and lots of more content coming out, and I always have guests and all of that good stuff. So make sure you guys join the family here. A nice, you get different views on these shows, different opinions, and I think that's what makes it even more special. Let's go ahead and move on because after this, we still got 2 more matches to get into. So let's hop into Big E versus Drew McIntyre. Tempest, we'll kick it off with you. Do you think Big E will be losing the title here tonight, or do you think it's a shoo-in that he's definitely going to win?
I think Big E's going to retain this title. I think this is a pretty good, first big pay-per-view title defense. I think at this point, Drew McIntyre is pretty bulletproof after having been in the main event scene for so long on Raw. He can take a loss in this match, and then he's moving over to the other brand. They like to say that, the draft, everyone resets. You can beat someone on their way out, and it's not going to matter that much. I think that kind of holds true for this example here. I don't think he's going to get hurt too much if he goes out there and has a really big match with Big E, and I think it's a shoo-in that he's going to go and face Roman Reigns at some point in the near future on SmackDown, because you look at the rest of that main event scene, and where is it? I think this match is going to be pretty good. I hope so anyway. I think it could fall victim to that Saudi Arabia syndrome, but Big E's a new WWE champion. I would hope that he's going to go out there and want to really put on a big, great first huge pay-per-view match. I got my fingers crossed, but I think it's pretty much a lock that Big E's going to retain.
Will, do you believe that Big E's going to retain, or do you think that Drew McIntyre is going to walk out champion?
Oh, Big E totally retains. I do think that the match probably gets the patented big meaty men slapping meat distinction, because I think that this match could deliver. But I disagree. We finally do, on the idea that Drew McIntyre is bulletproof, because for a number of reasons. One, I think when you really consider how much of his run at the top, and by how much I mean all, took place during the PC and Thunderdome era, and how much of that time period WWE has pretty much swept away, especially the PC, none of that exists any longer. But thinking about that, I feel like if anything, Drew's run at the top is probably going to be one of those hey, remember that Drew McIntyre won the Royal Rumble? Remember that he was in the main event of WrestleMania? I don't necessarily feel like it's a thing people are going to remember all that well. And I don't think that unless you make the moves to actually go about protecting him, I don't necessarily believe that Drew is bulletproof in that sense. So I don't think he's winning at all. I think that Big E's winning. But I also I struggle to see where Drew sees a strong run on SmackDown either, especially if at this point I think everybody's predicting Roman gets the 2-year title run. And I don't, except maybe Edge, I don't look at anybody that Roman's beaten thus far in this run as having been better off for having faced Roman or having lost to him. So in that sense, I don't see how Drew looks any better for that. I think, if anything, losing to Roman last year at Survivor Series hurt Drew. Like not to say that he shouldn't have lost, but the idea that Roman told him on the mic, "Yeah, you're the other champion. Yeah, you don't really matter as much as me," and then he turned around and proved that right. I feel like didn't do Drew any favors, and no, I don't think he's in a good spot right now. It's honestly slightly unbelievable that he's even challenging for the title.
Exactly. I think it's unfortunate because I'm a big fan of Drew McIntyre. I loved what he did as champion, but the issue is that unfortunately he was champion during a period in time where, he didn't have the audience to feed off of. He had to work the Thunderdome and, all of that. So I do think the odds were sort of stacked against him in that sense. And then afterwards, they really kind of didn't do him any favors by making him do those history lessons, by making him have matches with Veer and Shanky and Jinder. That unfortunately, I mean, the whole thing was about a sword. I mean, like, come on, like, and shanking people, that wasn't going to get anywhere. So they have done harm to Drew McIntyre, which is unfortunate because Drew McIntyre, I think, is a great competitor and a great person to be a top guy. And I do think that him going into this match with Big E, I think it's going to be a good match. But it's one of those things where this story has also been hurt by the can they coexist? They did this.
Oh, she said the magic term. Can they coexist? With the words. There we go.
Take a shot, man. 3 weeks in a row, they ran this can they coexist crap with these guys. I'm sorry, but that definitely sucks the fun out of both of them, which is very unfortunate. And yeah, I definitely think Big E's going to win. And if he doesn't, I would be shocked. All right. Lastly, let's go ahead and get into our final match. Here we go. The last one, and I'm very much looking forward to this one. It is Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar for that Universal Championship. We'll kick things off with you. Do you think that Brock Lesnar will be defeating Roman Reigns?
No. First off, really quick side note, because I want to offer a slight apology to the viewers of Miss Denise over here, because I have tried to get through this show. I told her beforehand that I have a cold, and I've tried to get through it, and I feel like I'm getting more nasally as I speak. And like every time she pulls up a graphic, I like grab some tissue and like start like wiping my nose. And if you've noticed, like I've had like drips happening like as I speak.
We haven't seen that.
But if you've been paying attention, like it's been happening, and I feel like as I talk, I'm getting worse. So for anybody who's wondering why Will sounds so nasally right now, that's why. So I apologize. That said,
well,
Brock
first of all, I appreciate you for coming onto the stream even though you were sick. You could have no-showed, man. You could have no-showed.
I wanted to do this, and so I took some Dayquil like an hour before we started, and I'm feeling better. I spent like 2 hours in bed this morning, so I am a little bit better, but I am definitely all congested. That said, Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns as the world turns. This is obviously the most intriguing thing happening in WWE right now. Paul Heyman is definitely a genius at all of this. And for the most part, this isn't even my type of thing, because I tend to prefer wrestling angles that center around wrestling, and nobody here is wrestling at the moment. And yet, I'm still intrigued because of the idea that Brock Lesnar has been tied to Paul Heyman for the last 20 years, and other than a brief 8-month period at the end of 2002, they've basically been inseparable. And so like the idea of Brock doing anything without Paul Heyman is an intriguing idea, and it doesn't sound possible, so therefore there's no way that Paul Heyman isn't pulling some strings around here. All of this is intriguing stuff. It even helps me mask the fact that not only have we seen Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns a billion times, we've seen it in Saudi Arabia. But so props to them for taking a match that I was dead sick of, a match that if my buddy Eric Brady, who I used to host RBR with, He used to joke all the time of like one of his running gags was he would always like fantasy book, but he'd find a way to lead it to Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, and then we'd all go, that was our gag, right? Because we had just seen it so many times. They always found a way to come back to Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, but they did it, and they've made it intriguing. And I actually am shocked that they've done so. Knowing what they've gotten out of this feud, and knowing that the Rock stuff probably isn't happening, I don't even think this match is conclusive. I think this isn't the end of what we've seen out of Brock and Roman, and that they somehow stretch this out. I think Roman walks out champ, but I don't think we have any type of conclusion coming out of it.
Tempest, thoughts on all of this?
I must agree. I think we're gonna get something fishy go on at the end of this match, because again, we've heard about what possible plans for WrestleMania might be. It looks like a match between these two guys is at least being thought about, if not planned. And at that point, it's, I don't know if Brock Lesnar's going to win the Royal Rumble and everything, but the path for him to go to WrestleMania to face Roman Reigns involves a Paul Heyman turn on this show. And I don't want to say that this is necessarily like one of those old TNA matches where they booked the whole thing around just like, well, what's the referee going to do? Or who's going to turn on who? And then you don't care about the rest of the match. You just waiting to see what the turn's going to be. I don't think we're quite at that level, because I am still kind of intrigued into this match. They've had a good match in the past. That being said, I think Paul Heyman is going to stick with Roman Reigns for the time being, and he's going to end up beating Brock Lesnar in some form or fashion and keep that title hopefully for 2 years and even longer than that.
So I was definitely in this train of thought exactly the way that you and Will were, where I was like, all right, it's a shoo-in that Roman Reigns is going to win. However, we all know what happened to NXT when they lost these Wednesday night wars. We know what happened to NXT and the rebranding. What happened this Friday?
That is a very spicy detail. That's a very good point.
Things didn't come out so great for SmackDown and Roman and all of that, especially after that interview that he gave and all of those interesting sound bites. Given that in those situations, sometimes you see people get, I don't want to say punished, but punished for not necessarily, completely beating the opponent. I would not be surprised if this was one of the situations where it was like, you know what? We didn't win. I mean, yeah, you won in the overall viewership, but we didn't whoop their butts completely. So What if this could be a moment where Vince is like, nope, Roman isn't cutting it. We're going back to Brock.
No way.
Oh, not a chance. It would blow my mind to see them give up on Roman Reigns of all people, but who do they go back to when they don't know what else to do? It's Brock Lesnar.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh my goodness.
I'm just trying to throw in another possibility here, guys.
I don't think there's a chance of that. I think it'd be cool. I'm not gonna lie, just because I'm such a fan of the chaos that any type of chaotic scenario is for me. But nah.
What a next ripple in WWE that would be.
That would
WWE
be
loses to Rampage on Friday, and then they book this championship run that's been going on for a year and a half. We're booking it to end because they lost by like 100,000 viewers.
And not even on their main network. Like they lost on
for
FS1.
a half hour.
Yeah,
All
for
right.
half. Yeah.
I'm just saying, if it happens, I want to take credit for this. I want everyone to know Denise knew what was happening. All right. But no, I really do think that they should go with Roman. But if they don't, we at least have a theory.
Thinking.
If they went with Brock, then Drew would almost have to win, in a sense, because I guess not.
I'm seeing the wheels spin, Will. I'm waiting.
Yeah, I guess it'd be more so the other way around. That if they went with Drew, then Brock would have to win, just because Brock's the free agent. He can compete on both shows, whereas
Drew's
Roman
locked
and
into
Drew,
SmackDown.
they're locked down.
Yeah.
So that would open up some possibilities. I don't know what they do, to be honest. I don't. As far as that's concerned, like I think ultimately Roman walks out champion, but I think we get screwed out of a finish. I think they ultimately want to prolong all of this. Here's my question. Brock has been very hit or miss in Saudi Arabia, right? We did the first match with Roman, and they did a full match there. But then he did the match with Fury, which was basically a sprint. He had the squash of Ricochet. Is this wrestling Brock, or is this Brock who just showed up to bounce and collect his check?
Brock Lesnar has one thing on the mind, and that is money, baby.
But
money,
he gets
money,
it no matter
money.
what. He gets it whether he squashes Ricochet in 10 seconds. He gets it whether he has a 2-minute match with did I say Fury? I meant
Cain Velasquez.
Cain Velasquez, yeah. And he gets it whether he has a full-on match with Roman Reigns. And so for me, if I were Brock Lesnar and I were maximizing my time for money, I obviously would try to get that million while doing the least amount of work possible. So therefore...
God. He had that match with Braun Strowman, too, that was bad.
Oh, yeah, that would happen in Saudi Arabia, too. And that was like 2 minutes. Yeah. So, like, here's the thing. He barely wrestles in these Saudi Arabia matches. He goes over, does a couple of suplexes, F5, and we're out. And I don't know. And given that we also haven't seen him have a match since WrestleMania in front of no one, and even that was only just a couple of minutes, I don't know what we're getting here. This is the match I'm obviously most intrigued by for a number of reasons, because I don't know what's happening at all.
I just gotta say, I'm a big Brock Lesnar fan, so like that, we gotta throw that in there, all right? I know a lot of people hate Brock Lesnar, and
I love Brock
and all of that, but I'm a fan, man. I can't help but to get excited every time he comes out. But it's one of those things where I'm like, when CM Punk signed with AEW, who benefited outside of AEW? You want to know who benefited besides the fans? Brock Lesnar, because Brock Lesnar used that to his advantage coming back to WWE, and I'm sure he got a pretty penny about that. So you can't help but to respect the man for being good at this business situation. Good at handling
100%.
his business. We got a super chat from the real Giannis who says, I agree with all of you guys regarding my super chat, but Denise got what I meant in regards to AEW, WWE. Also, Big Time Bex is a favorite of mine. Just feel she's going to get better and better. Thank you so much, Real Giannis, for sending in your super chat and kind of having us have an actual real discussion. I appreciate that. We got people here torn up. We got a lot of people here saying that they think that I have the card. I do not have the card results. I do not know any of this. This is just me speculating. And then we have people basically talking amongst themselves about Roman and Brock. But there you guys go. That is our show, ladies and gentlemen. This was so much fun. I want to thank you guys both so much for doing this for me. With me. Before we go, I'm going to give you guys each the floor to plug in your stuff and promote whatever you want to promote. Tempest, we'll go ahead and kick it off with you.
Okay, let's see if I don't miss anything this time. I always feel like I forget about something. I just have too much stuff to plug. Of course, right there, Tempest WT. That is my Twitter handle. Go and give me a follow. Numbers are getting up there. I'm happy about that. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, Tempest the Wrestler. I make wrestling video essays. Those are fun. I promise I'll put out the second part of my Tanahashi Okada series as soon as I can. I'm always so busy. I can't deal. Go to WrestleShop.com, get an LIW shirt. We're still selling these. They sold well. Let's keep selling them well. LIW for life. We're both champions. Don't you want to wear the merch of champions? I got this crown. I'm not selling this crown, but I'm the Quizzlemania champion, so I'll wear it anyway. Make sure you go and subscribe to Wrestle Talk Podcast, Parts Fun Known and No Rolls Barred over on YouTube. We got all the content every single day. I seem to be doing content every single day, so I'm living the dream. But make sure you go and subscribe to all those channels so you get to watch all of our fine content. I think that's everything.
Well done. You passed the plug test. Congratulations. Will, please take the floor and plug whatever you want to plug in.
Yes, I will start by plugging my Twitter and Instagram, William RBR. And I'm going to do a couple of plugs here. First thing I'm going to plug, I'm going to give Denise Salcedo the exclusive here because at the beginning of 2020, I launched a YouTube channel, youtube.com/wrestlingwithwill, and I started a number of series on that YouTube channel. One of the series I did was a show called Wrestling with My Friends. It was a series where I show professional wrestling to people in my life who don't watch professional wrestling and record their reactions and get their input on it. And it was a great series to have started. And then, of course, the pandemic happened, and then I wasn't able to like get in person with people, and it just wasn't coming out as well as I wanted it to, trying to record like this. But the good news is I'm interacting with people again. And so I actually have started producing the show again. So there's going to be some new episodes, and this is the first time I've announced this at all, but there's going to be new episodes of Wrestling with My Friends over on my YouTube channel. So check out Wrestling with Will, youtube.com/Wrestling with Will. Also a retro plug for me. Although the show is still currently on, so I'll also give a plug to the guys over at RBR Weekly Wrestling Talk. I hosted RBR Weekly Wrestling Talk for 16 straight years. I just recently left the show a month ago, but I still believe in those guys and still believe in what they're doing. RBRWrestling.com is a way to find that. It's over at fanoff.com. And also every episode of RBR Weekly Wrestling Talk that's ever been published is still up. So if you go to RBRWrestling.com and you want to hear my opinions on the Chris Benoit tragedy, because literally I hosted that show for 16 years. My thoughts on everything that's happened in wrestling over the last decade and a half are out there. Again, it's at rbrwrestling.com. And you can hear all my stuff. You know that anybody that knows me knows I'm a massive Mariah Carey fan, and all things Mariah Carey are out there. Do we need to talk? Are you? Hold on. Are you? Let's see if I can do this.
I'm a lamb.
Are you a lamb? So would you say you're obsessed, or would you say that you've been loving her a long time, or would you say that what was the song that was on this album? Would you say that you need to see? But I was gonna say you're a Swiftie as well, because I was gonna say would you like to shake it off, or do you need to make it through the rain, or or do you need to consult your lover boy, or better yet, is this conversation, Tempest, a heartbreaker, or do you need to spread your wings and prepare to fly, for you have become a butterfly, or better yet, oh damn it, I don't have Daydream over here. Where's Daydream? Or is there a hero in you?
I love this. So first of all, I give.
Are you feeling emotions
to Taylor Swift? But I am a big Mariah Carey fan, so I am here with you on that. And now you just gave me a brilliant video idea that I will reach out to you in the future about.
Hell yes, I will do this until we can't do it. Anyway, the last thing to mention, youtube.com/Fightful. I am the host of Grapsity. It is just so much fun. If you haven't checked out Grapsity yet, we've done 3 episodes so far. We talk about the top 5 things of the week. It is with myself. It is with Righteous Reg. It is with Philip Lindsay. It is so much fun. It airs every Saturday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. That is at youtube.com/Fightful. Grapsity. It's so much fun.
Too bad I hate that channel. Terrible boss.
I know.
Yeah, Wrestle Talk's so much better.
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much as always. Guys, please show them some support, and also feel free to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at _Denise Salcedo. But more importantly, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, we'll see you guys later. Bye.